welcome back to part 2 of this week's Goals Eye View. We're going to do the poll. So first of all, the poll, as you can see on your screen, we basically says it's time for a new manager at the club, and 60% have said yes, 40% have said no. Fair enough. And then we've asked you to comment below. I'm going to read out a few things, and then we can discuss them a bit. So Tourboy Rover says you could have Jose Mourinho as manager at our club, but the problems are still here. No money. Players dropping like flies until someone tells me different. I'll back Gary and the players we have. Yes, you could bring someone in new, but they have to turn it around pretty quick. Thank you for that. Christopher says, still in the no camp at present, but it needs changing. As many questions should have been asked of those running the club as Gary Johnson, in my opinion. 6 million spent for what return? ? If those running the show are allowing Gary Johnson to bring in a capable person to prove, and he's capable, then it's time to go. Both very fair points. Anything to add to them too?
Who do we replace him with?
Yeah, we'll get to that.
That's a big question, Dennis, isn't it?
I don't say you.
His win ratio for Torquay, I wrote it down here, is 47.7%. Only bettered by his win ratio at Yeovil, which was 52.5.
Mm-hmm.
He's been in charge for 193 games.
Wow.
He's won 92, drawn 41, and lost 60. That ain't bad.
No, it's been incredible over time.
It's what's happening lately, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think,
and this is a problem with all this, which is where the challenge I had with the interview he did after the game last night.
Yeah.
He was a bit more honest. It sounds like he went over to the fans, which is rare when we've been beaten, frankly. And the issue I'd have with it is that it's all well and good because he mentioned the promotion, he mentioned the player final, and that's fine. And that's you have to be judged over a whole tenure. But absolutely, but as I've said the last few weeks, you've got to. I'm still not Johnson, and I'm still not Johnson out. I'm fact. We've played 15 games. We've lost 9 of them. We're bottom of the league. We're getting further adrift. We're not beating sides we should be beating, who frankly aren't very good.
No,
and that's the fact of it. That's the fact.
We all know his CV, don't we? I mean, that's why we give him leeway, and that's why we like him for many other.
I mean, if this was like a rookie quote manager like Nicholson or Hargreaves, we are absolutely fan protesting to get him out. So this guy called Chris Wade, any idea? He says pointless unless a new manager is given the higher funding, and if there is more funding, why is it not being used now? And if there is, then Gary, I'm struggling reading this, I don't know why. And if there is, then Gary is probably the best person to give it a go.
Yeah, so I couldn't resist on commenting on it this week, but it was more just the fact that if there's more funding,
loves the limelight.
Such ego to comment on your own thing.
It's not like we give you a big enough platform.
Explaining it, but if there's more money, if there's funding, so if say for argument's sake, the issue is we can't afford to sack him, which I suspect is probably true-ish. If they want to sack him but they can't afford it, then they might as well accept that and use the money they would use to sack him to reinvest in the funds. If there is money and you're going to sack him, bring in a new manager and say, right, here's some funds to make the team better. Well, why aren't they doing that with Johnson? Because quite frankly, if they've not sacked him by now, then they may as well give him more funds to improve the squad, because nobody who we could replace him with, and God knows who that would be, could potentially do a better job. The comment that came back on that, Sam, which was interesting, which you've probably seen, was around the fact of, but the money he spent now, he's wasted, which I think is potentially a valid point. But actually, if there isn't a better management option, then you might as well give him the money and say, right, okay, you've got us into this mess, get us out of it.
It's not like before when we sat Nicholson and we're waiting 36 days for bloody Gary Owers. Like that's the danger. Scores can get worse.
The question is, does a new manager come in and get these players doing something different? Can he bring something different and get winning games? He can structure them so they are a defensive unit, but he needs wingers to balance it. As simple as he needs fresh faces. Whoever
Gary's going to bring in more loanies, and if we can get another Duke McKenna or Armstrong, then that'd be great.
I think he'll be given a chance, Dennis, to use some of those funds from the cup, and I think that will be his opportunity to maybe turn it around.
That was a very poignant interview. It's the first time I've seen Gary Johnson this season on the front foot on an interview. It was like he was interviewing.
He looked a little bit broken in that interview.
Yeah, it was like, this is my last. It's like a game on it. It's like, this is my last chance.
I've studied body language, and he wasn't. I felt
he was getting stick from supporters last night as well, wasn't he? In the
I feel like I thought it could have been a goodbye as well. Either way,
what's your take on that? What's your take on that, Dennis? You say you mentioned you do quite a lot of work on body language. What's your take on that? Because it was different, wasn't it?
It just looked like he was just so distraught, and he couldn't really come up with any reasons or any positivity. He wasn't angry. No. He was just depressed by it all, really.
I think he's struggling for answers, and you look at the squad that's left at the moment, we're struggling for even get a bench.
We know he can be very fiery in the dressing room, but maybe we need to see a little bit of that on the interviews. I don't know.
What I thought was interesting in that was he kind of there was kind of a sense of culpability almost, wasn't there, which I've not heard before, around doing, these fans of 251 fans, I think it was last night, have travelled all this way. We've got beaten again. We owe it to them to get better. There are great people that work at the football club. We owe it to them to be better, and all of that. And that's a very kind of overarching philosophical thing to say, unprompted, isn't it? To say, actually, we're in the right mess here, and we need to get out of it for all of these reasons.
Notice as well,
that doesn't sound like somebody who's been told, look, if you don't put your socks up, we're going to sack you. Does it?
And notice as well how the interview starts with him talking. It was almost like cut out whatever they said before. Usually it's like a question, Gaffer, what do you think of today? And then he goes into it. But something, it was very different, wasn't it?
I think he needs to be interviewed by someone who's not so sycophantic,
Yeah, no, you're right.
Because I mean, I know Dom, if it's usually Dom, lovely guy and all that.
Yeah, and he's great.
And he works for the club. So he can't
really be very positive, Dom, doesn't he, at all times? And it does grate a little bit and when you're bottom of the league.
I mean,
you want to ask some proper questions.
If I was back in business, I'd hire Dom because he's the most positive guy I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal.
It's a bit
like when the new
challenged.
Yeah,
it's like when a new player signs, isn't it? Surely somebody has got to come up with a different question other than tell us how the move came about. Sure, it has to be a different.
What happens in the Premier League? They face the press, don't they? And they face some proper questions. That's when they get real answers.
There's no doubt that Gary Johnson has had a lot of media training. Last night, I'd never seen him like that before.
No, that was also like a bit of a one out of rule book, a manager's like rule book, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Last night. The hand he pulled. Right. A few more comments. Mark Hurst says, I think we'd be stitching up a new manager if we gave him this lot now. With Jarvin, Moxie out, Smith presumably injured too. What do we have for Saturday? 12 players. It's such a weirdly assembled squad. He chooses to play 2 up front every game, but only has 3 forwards, a point I've made so much. So no room to manoeuvre for injury, suspensions, form, and no natural wit for plan B. Maybe he has lost a plot. I agree. It's basically
there's problems from the summer, aren't there? I mean, with buying players in, you've got to find players who are fit and can play.
Buy Hansen. We did pay a fee.
We've paid money for Hansen. I mean, he might come good, but
I think he will come good. I think he will.
There's a few players in the squad who
I'm on my own on this one with Hansen.
I rate Hansen. I think he can be right in these wingers.
When you're talking United, when you pay for a player, they got to be good.
Yeah,
we don't pay for players very often.
And of course, a lot of the players that we brought in were from sides that were relegated last season.
And they've just played well against us. And then the Johnson have gone, we're signing him. It's like me when I first started playing like Football Manager. He's good. He played well against me. I'm going to sign him.
Last year we paid a fee for Conor Lemonade, didn't we? But we knew what we were getting with him, didn't we?
I think we paid a little one for Joe Lewis as well. Yeah. But we knew he's amazing.
Again, we knew what we were getting with him, didn't we?
I think we got some money for Joe Lewis, didn't we? Because he was under a certain age.
Yeah.
And that money probably went to
Hansen.
Yeah.
And also, he needs to get out of the way of being hit by footballs. That would probably be useful as well.
He didn't turn up to training for me on Football Manager this morning, so I don't like him anymore. Right, one more, or a few more actually. I can't add anything original. It is a parlour. I saw that word, and then parlour state, and I've decided I'm just going to call it bad. No tricky words for me, please. I'm literally never had that one. My parlour state for our club to be in. Squad is nowhere near good enough. Maybe it's time to roll the dice and get a new manager in. They would need to be spectacular turd polishers to keep us up, though. It's very true. And
That's Clive, wasn't it?
Yeah. Cheers, Clive.
Sounds like Clive.
yeah, has to be Clive.
And then Nick's kind of replied to that, and you, Chris, said the only thing I'd say that is they might not keep us up. Then what? Chris is bang on. If the money has been there all along, the Gary's the problem and needs to go. If not, someone needs an answer of state as a club, and it's true. All of that, so bang on. Cool. A lot of people have spoke today. Thank you very much. All
replies,
very good replies, all of these as well. So far, I haven't read the rest yet. Rachel, this is Gary Johnson's 5th season, and all the highs and lows of 2021 seem far, far away. Yes, they do. Very far away. we're moving at a slow dirge pace towards relegation, and whatever is going on, change, fresh eyes and approaches are needed. And I agree, Rachel. Something big has to change somewhere. Someone said steadily heading towards National League South. Something needs changing. Thanks, Mel. Voice is going there. I feel 14. Craig says it's time for a new manager for weeks, not months. Club needs to act and quick. Thank you, Craig. And it says young coaches, new ideas, and a fitness and conditioning coach. Maybe someone else for set plays ideas too. I wonder what difference makes Leicester City in the Premier League recently. George, yeah, the way I see it, I think
he had to get that in, didn't he? He had to get that in. Little cheeky Leicester mention there.
Yeah, the way I see it, I think the owner is slowly taking a step back in terms of funding. He'll be happy for us to go down, and then he can make us go part time. Pete said, sadly, I think you're right. On
why
that,
though? Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah,
this is what I don't get. Why? How is that beneficial for my investment? I own the football club. How is my investment beneficial for me?
I don't know. I mean,
we don't know because we never hear from the owner.
And is it his money he's putting in? Was it someone else's money that's the club's owing to him eventually?
It's very difficult to tell on the owners, and it's such a mystery, aren't we? You know,
it is, and I'm no businessman.
Stand in the darkness, don't they?
Yeah, but I'm no businessman. But that's not logical. I get it. I understand the negativity, and I understand everything that comes with the ownership. I get that, but that's not logical. If any of us own ever, it is illogical to want it to fail. I just don't. He may not be interested. He may not be a football man, but I just don't buy that he wants it to fail. I just don't buy that.
My first take on the owners comes from Gary Johnson, who keeps repeating that he's happy with the setup of the club. He's happy with the back-in. He's happy with the budget he's had. Take from that what you will. I mean, he's an experienced manager. He doesn't have to say that. He's not like he's a 32-year-old coach trying to keep his job. If he's happy with it, we must have it. But
we need to hear from the top to say that they're either backing Gary or they're not.
Yeah,
you know, because otherwise there's just rumours, fabrications of stories, and it just gives rise to.
That's their style, Dennis, isn't it? They don't come out for just for any reason. They just want to talk about
a short interview with George or Clark saying, you know, we apologise for the poor performances. We're going to back Gary, and we've got time on our side, and we're going to get it right. Something like that.
It's also interesting.
What they promised was a fans forum, wasn't it, when they first came in?
A good idea.
No chance.
Trouble is, they can get very negative, can't they? Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, what's interesting is if you look when you go to an away game, you buy the match day programs. More as not, they have a chairman's program note, a chief executive program, something from the executive of the club to give to tell the fans what's going on, whether it be about community work, whatever it might be, and there's never a thing. I get the ownership is what it is, but that can't be right.
I think they want to talk to us. They don't want us dictating.
We're too busy closing down another Speedway team, and then he has the audacity to one day later put a statement about how we still want a new stadium. But this is my point. I think judge your match day experience on look at the pitch, look at where the club's going. When they were there, it was awful at the start. It was dreadful, you know, and then all of a sudden it picked up when Gary Johnson came in. There was like, surveys. I can't quite remember the time frame. Surveys. What do you like about the match experience? What don't you like? All this stuff. Anyway, now if you go to Plainmoor, I go in the pop side these days. You go in, and first of all, you're not allowed cash to get in the turnstiles, but you're not allowed card to pay for your food. Yeah. What the hell is that? I don't understand. Little things like that. I'll go Buckland sometimes for like youth games, or actually watch Buckland a few times recently, and that friendly in pre-season. And like everything's just so much nicer. It's more professional. The food is different. There's a different range, better range of food, all this stuff. I'm not having to go at all at the people at work because there's some really good and friendly, hard-working people. But their fans are probably tired with what they can get.
It's a club that's detached from what supporters want to do at games, isn't it? Do we want to pay by cash? Yeah, we do.
Yeah, and then it's also it's one or the other. It's either all card, all cash, or both, like a normal functioning human business in the 2022. And you go up the steps need painting. You look towards the family stand. Those yellow seats are paler than me. Like they're so white.
They aren't that bad, Sam. In fairness,
no, and they're not quite that bad. But it was a bit of exaggeration. They need painting. Get volunteers in, even like they used to. I've cleaned Bristow's bench a couple of years ago with one other bloke. That was a nice afternoon, and it's just like just do that stuff. There's just no care anywhere. And when it's like that off the pitch, sorry, fly through across them. When it's like that across the pitch, it will be parallel on the pitch and look what's happening. So they're completely.
But on the flip side, they have invested in the pitch.
Yeah, pitch is superb.
They did for 2 or 3 years. They invested brilliantly. Yeah. This is a really weird thing.
When was the last time we had a game called off? It's not.
But is it their money anyway? Because it's just going on debt.
Oh, but you can't moan about them not putting money into things, and then when they put money in,
yeah, but the club's absolutely done anyway. If we're 4 or 5 million in debt, then it's, even if we had got to the Football League, would it have even been sustainable? You've got to run a sustainable business, or you're a poor businessman. You know, I know you can give me an excuse about how there's facilities and all right, or if it's a big thing, you build a match day gym training thing. They were talking like a gym like Plymouth have done, make it separate to Playmore, and you open it to the public and for the football team and for the youth academy, and then that's where you have your multi-function purpose. And then if you want to build a stadium next to that, go for it. I mean, and is that going to clear 5 million debt? No, it's all a load of rubbish for me. And you hear, to speak to the people who do the bowling, I've heard a conversation, they are horrible to them, horrible to deal with, stuff like that. Just, well, I don't know if it's bowling, but something, just everyone that comes into contact with owners are just cold and they just rip businesses off. You know, I've known loads of people that are just, they just, the amount they charge and the amount they're just not nice people.
Yeah, the bit that I struggle to understand was let's just live in fantasy world in a minute where I win 300 million on the lottery and I buy Torquay United, right? So I, as a fan, buy Torquay United. What's the first thing I'm going to do? The first thing I'm going to do is I am going to recruit somebody through somebody who knows what they're doing, who knows something about running the product that I'm trying to produce. So I'm going to have a chief executive who is personable, who knows what they're doing, is business savvy, can make tough decisions, and can also run the club correctly
and have good communication skills.
And a part of that is about communicating. Absolutely. Probably a football club is probably unique to an awful lot of life in, you know, the jobs we all do on a daily basis and the jobs that, you know, everybody who's watching this does. But communication is 100% the key in an awful lot of things. And actually, even if the owners came out and said the reason that we do what we do with the structure of ticketing and no cash at the turnstiles is because of this.
Yeah.
Even if then you knew and disagree, that's different.
That's
just
fine.
Everyone thinking it's nonsense.
That's fine. In business, you have to make tough decisions, but don't keep people guessing.
Somebody you think you can reach out to and they actually listen. You know, that makes a big difference, doesn't it? Football clubs. Yeah, just to communicate it through.
People skills.
I mean, we had Colin Lee years ago, didn't we? Was he chief exec? But he did a great job.
Management is about people skills, and if you haven't got them, then you fail.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Dennis.
I think there's so much pressure on Gary Johnson to do it all.
Do everything. There's no bloke helping, and the recruitment.
Yeah, I mean, he's the voice of the club, and I think it's quite unfair, actually.
Yeah, it all comes back to him, doesn't it?
I mean, to a certain degree, I think that's the same in every club. You know, how often do you hear from the Henrys at Liverpool and Sheikh Mansour at Man City? Well, never. But the problem is when it's within such a small community, what should be a community club with the structure that we have, which is basically an owner, one bloke, and a manager. That's kind of not an easy way to run a business, is it? And from a fan, when as I say, it is like unlike most other businesses, because actually the product you're producing is entirely dependent on the money that you can make and the people that come and visit your business again. And they don't seem to get that, do they?
It's a shame because we're a family club, really, or we should be. So making friends with locals and just doing a bit more to get them in the gates and spend more money. I've heard of people who got fed up with dealing with the owners and they used to spend good money in the club. They said, "Oh, bugger it, I'm not going anymore," that kind of thing. They were 3 or 4 people who would spend good money on hospitality, drinks, and all the caboodle.
Well, look at the attendance. Like that. Look at the attendances now. There was a lot of free tickets last week. Yeah. Take those away, and the attendance is what, 1,200, 1,100? It's worrying, you know. What's the attendance going to be against Aldershot midweek if we get hammered 5-0, 6-0 at Notts? I mean, I'll be there. You guys will be there.
Yeah.
But and we don't want this, you know.
And I think we said that the first midweek game that we had in September, where the crowd was kind of like 1,500. I think I remember saying then, geez, you know, if this is the crowd now when the weather's relatively warm and, you know, it's early in the season, what's it going to be like in November, December when, and that was obviously didn't have the foresight of knowing how the league position then either. So,
that's when you need the owners and everybody to pull together and try.
The population of Torbay, including Newton Abbot, is the same as Ipswich or Norwich. It's exactly the same. They're getting 26,000 every week. We should be getting at least 4,000 anyway. You know,
it never happens, Dennis. I've been going 33 years.
Well, yeah, as I say, I'm
2,200.
I'm a relative newbie to Devon, so yeah. But I just want this club to do well because I think it's a lovely club. But it's just sad to see we can't. They cannot afford to go down to the NLS because they won't win it next time.
No,
First time.
really,
They won't.
Trouble. Especially if Yeovil
The
come
teams that
down
are in
with
it:
us, that'd be
Dartford,
interesting.
Ebbsfleet, Havant, and Waterlooville. You know,
Bath.
Gloucester. No, they're in
can go the season.
And of course, that league's different now to how it was when we were in it. But no, we shouldn't be having this conversation. But anyway, it's different to how it was then because before we were one of the only full-time teams, and we could just. There were some games when all you had to do was just work until 70 minutes, and then just smash teams out of sight in the last 20 minutes of games with our fitness and our power. But that league now, we'd go down to that league, and there'd be sides with bigger budgets than we had. Wouldn't we? So, which is why it can't be allowed to happen. But it's still a long way off.
You had on the site, Sam, wasn't it?
I've got two more on Twitter. So Peter says not yet, but I think the pot of gold from the Derby game and how the club chooses to spend it will define our season yet. And Footster says a new manager will come in talking and talk, walking and walk, but the same issues will be their location, finance, and a league whereby the money is beginning to talk. Thank you for all those comments. All brilliant. Thanks again. I've got one more on the site from Nick. Says it is becoming obvious we can't attract players with required age, experience, or ability to Devon. These are the two main reasons for his location or financial. There are two main reasons that are location and financial. Maybe a bit of both. I therefore challenge TORQUAYTALK such a trust to debate this further. We think we need to think outside the box and explore solutions. If Gary has to be honest, he will confirm this. He's trying to polish a turd. We as a group need to stop talking about what is not working and explore solutions. Also, back the trust. Have the trust. Everyone needs to join it. It's like what, £2 a month? I'm a member. We need to get the biggest fan support just in case.
Trust have fallen out with the owners.
That happened ages ago. Yeah,
they've never really got on with them, Dennis. They've never spoken to them.
I said to them, why don't you just bang your heads together and work in one common goal?
They want to.
No.
What is it? I have no knowledge of it. I don't have a huge amount of knowledge of this. What is it about what the Trust are doing and are trying to do that the club don't like?
I think it goes back to when the owners first came in, and the Trust were quite guarding of the club, weren't they? And
they don't like constructive criticism. Or if you make a suggestion, they think you're being negative. And that isn't always the case.
Right.
But, we've all got one thing in common. We want Torquay United to be successful.
So you wouldn't think it wouldn't be that hard?
Focus on that.
Yeah.
Like me, a nice match in a few weeks.
And again, I think the club should be running the supporters' coaches to away games and subsidise them.
Yeah.
They should.
Yeah.
They don't even mention.
It should certainly be pushing the coaches. I don't know about subsidising them, but they could put it in the programme, get people to go because
they always used to do.
Team,
Yeah, it was used to do. I think the problem with, again, being as objective, not talking about ours, but just supporters groups in general, is that it's easy for supporters groups for them to think that they've got a voice, because the reality is you can try and engage with the club and you can try and show willing to do this and that, because as Sam alluded to earlier, we'd all go and volunteer to do some stuff to make the club better, but the reality of it is, if you want to say thanks, bugger off, we'll do it our way, there's nothing anyone can do about it, because the owners are the ones with the power.
Chris, because the Trust do offer to volunteer to do stuff.
Absolutely, that's the point, which is why I don't understand it.
I would happily after work go down and help something in the stadium. Loads of Torquay fans would. Just clean the seats, paint whatever. I wouldn't paint them, I'll do a terrible job. But just clean the seats or something like that. But just
it's
and you
not
feel
that,
like you're
it's
part
stuff
of it.
like drumming business up around town that
anything,
because they're local people. They can get people coming to games, they can drum up business, they can make connections, they can do stuff like that. They can help out with fates, fun days, limitless sort of things.
And there's an argument that says now, what more than ever, with the cost of living and the cost of everything that we're all managing in our own lives, there's an argument that says that kind of drive is more important than ever. Because actually, if you're going to be spending your spare £20 or your spare, whatever it might be to go and support your club, and it's not something you might go and do. Should we go to when I was a kid, 4, 5, 6 times a year, my dad would say, "Oh, Torquay every day, should we go?" And we'd go. But you're not going to do that with the welcome, as Sam said, the matchday experience, everything about how it works. You're not going to do that. Exactly. I mean, look what Buckland do with the Torquay season ticket holders when Torquay are away.
Oh, Buckland are at home. Buckland is such a nice place.
They're very friendly at Buckland. I went to the
care, don't they? They're a family club, and they care about who comes in the gates.
I was chatting to the chairman before the game.
Yeah,
you know. What
and
a
again,
nice guy.
all of these clubs, EFL Leagues 1 and 2, National League clubs, if they haven't got some idea what in the background for what to do during the World Cup, then they're mad. But they should all be doing half-price tickets for anybody who can produce an EFL season ticket, something like that, to get more people through the doors. Look, come and watch our non-league product. A little bit different where we are, but across the country, there should be something that these clubs are doing to attract Premier League Championship season ticket holders during the World Cup.
Yeah. Good solution. I had a couple of solutions that I mentioned to Sam before. I mean, we talked about the training ground and moving perhaps to Bristol way to give us options for players. It's getting to that point where you do wonder if that might be an option to.
I know the climate's changing, but Torquay have always been based in Torquay, right? So, and we were in the Football League for 92 years. And there are still a very good pool of players down here. So as much as it's an easy, it's a location, it's true, because that's why the North is Conference North is stronger than Conference South, because at this age, because players will just go part-time and stay playing, and rather than go down to ours, of course. But we're still, not poor at the moment, but we're still a good club to go to. To live in Torquay and all that, or living near Torquay, compared to maybe some other people. Some people might like it. We've done well enough for years. We did well enough 2 years ago being down here. Of course, we had the Bristol City link then, which helped a lot. But there's a lot of that. We have to make the most of that pool. So as much as I think the problem is when you get into, and it's a completely valid point. Thanks, Nick, for making that. And it is still a thing. But when we have a situation like this, it's easy to sort of bring factors back. But for me, it's so many things wrong at so many levels in the club. From off the pitch down to on the pitch, and it's all come out in one massive thump. Everything is rubbish, and there's nothing to excited to. Oh, isn't that a cheerful way to end the episode?
I had another solution as well.
Go on. That's another positive. Go on.
Let's have a solution.
Well, it might not change the world, but a lot of clubs have done a budget booster, something which we did a few years ago. Kevin Nicholson took charge of. Well, fans would put extra money into the club to pay for the budget for the players, or to add to what we have.
There's always some sort of thing. There's some sort of thing, yeah.
I think we gathered quite a bit at the time when Kevin was pushing it, because obviously people liked him and put their hands in their pockets. But it's not something these owners are likely to go for. But
just open up.
If that was to give us another 10% or something, I mean, we've got a lot of supporters dotted around, not just Torbay. We've got supporters dotted around the country. We've got them overseas, and if they think they can put a bit of extra money in and help out the club, I think they could. So I think it's a shame we wouldn't look into something like that, but it could help give us extra funds.
I always like those days that some clubs do, those pay what you want days. They always seem to be really well received by people, so you turn up and you pay whatever you think you should pay to watch a game of football. But 4,000 people paying £10 probably still more than we'd get right now, isn't it? Even something like, surely you've got to try something like that.
People were paying monthly amounts when Nico was here. They gathered a fair bit, I think, because of the goodwill, because he really showed interest in supporters.
Unfortunately, it all comes down to what's on the pitch, doesn't it? Because even if you had a pay what you want day, you turn up and Torquay are crap, you're not going to go back and watch it again, are you? Whereas if you turn up, Torquay win 3-0 and are really good, you're going to go, I might pay £18, £20 next time, because actually I really enjoyed that.
That's what I mean, though. If you can get another player in for that extra booster.
Plymouth and Exeter are both doing well, okay? We need to get one or two loanies from there, maybe. That's
another valid point. Plymouth and Exeter aren't failing because they're from Devon. Plymouth, I know they're a much bigger club, let's be honest, but they're even further blooming down than we are in the country. So
we've had one winger from Exeter City, and he was about 6 foot, and he looked a bit lost, didn't we? There must be other players available. It's a good point.
That's the way to go. And also, you know, why are we giving contracts to some of these younger players and then loaning them out?
Yeah.
I mean, Louis Slough, who lives across the road from me, I thought he looked okay to me. I mean, we don't know what goes on the training pitch, but the guy's never been given a chance.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, we've had a few of these younger players. They seem to give them sort of token contracts and never play them.
Yeah,
a lot of people say, "Oh, Olaf isn't any good." Well, has he ever been given a run of 5 games? No. We've seen him for 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. I mean, I don't know. Alex Moyes, people like that. Why
these players care? Yeah, if you're going to give them a contract to play them, right now when we've got nothing on the bench, honestly, there's
bring in a cropped loanee from QPR or wherever in town, you know, was it Aldershot? I mean, much as I like, is it Corey Andrews? Is his name?
Yeah.
He's a lovely guy. I see him in Paynton quite a lot. He's played 9-10 games, didn't score 1 goal.
He was just not fit ever, was he?
Poor bloke. He's had an op, you know. Luckily, he's on the mend.
Is he?
And I hope he does well. But
I mean, he proved it for Aldershot. He was one hell of a player last season when he was on loan last year.
Did he pass a fitness test, Dennis, or did Gary say, "Well, sign him anyway"? I mean,
sometimes I think they sign players based on stats.
Yeah. Oh, he could be all right. Hopefully, he stays fit. If he doesn't stay fit, that's not our problem. We signed a player; it should be good, and we can blame the fact he's injured. You know, I don't know how it works.
They must have to have legally. They must have to have a medical, mustn't they, to be able to for their insurance? They must have to be able to evidence it, wouldn't they?
I guess if it throws up things, then you can say, "Well, all right, we'll work with that."
But
I don't know. It does seem a bit iffy because he was unfit when he got here, wasn't he? It wasn't like he was.
Yeah,
they've got a good youth squad, and let's see some youngsters coming into the side. Well, not right now, but for the future.
Yeah,
because that's the way to go. It really is.
The problem with youth systems, and it doesn't help us, does it? That we've got a bloody successful one up the road, which repeatedly makes millions for itself. But I think the problem is, again, if you look at how much it costs to run a youth system, unless you are producing players that are playing in your first team that you're selling, or you'll be selling players. Because look, there are players who go out of Exeter Academy who've never played for them. So, and unless you're doing that, you can't justify the expenditure that you're spending on that. And that's the problem. Everyone likes the idea of it, but
real quality is going Exeter City at the moment, aren't they? So we're getting the dribs and drabs and having to mould what we can.
On a positive note, Exeter drew 0-0 at Derby, so Derby couldn't beat Exeter. We beat Exeter 1-0 in the friendly.
Okay, see.
So
I like that logic.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Are we not doing a Notts County preview, Sam?
No, we haven't got time. Nine South scored more goals than we have, something like that.
Notts County stats.
Go
don't do it.
Somebody's coming with some preparation. This is great.
They've won 11.
We've got a good record against Notts County.
They've won 11, drawn 3, lost 1. Where did they lose? Talking. 40 goals for, 14 against, but they lost 3-2 to Colville at home in the FA Cup.
That's it.
So judging from that, then, Dennis, what's the score going to be?
At Notts, a mate of mine up in Chorley in Alan, if you know Alan Taylor, he reckons it's going to be 5 or 6-0. I've got a funny feeling it's going to be a closer game than we think. But we're going to have to do a hell of a lot of defending. Probably 3-1.
And that's the problem. Let's be honest, that's the problem. The problem is, again, on the face of it, like the Wrexham game, you cannot see anything other than we're going to get an absolute hiding.
I know.
But football doesn't work like that, does it?
No.
We might go there and win 1-0.
Is anyone going to Nottingham?
No.
Yes, I'll be there.
You going? How are you getting there?
Unfortunately, I'm in the area for with family.
Yeah.
So I've unfortunately. So
because it was the side of the pitch. Are you sitting on the side, Chris, or down one end, or?
No. The only I bought the tickets early. The only option is we've got one block kind of level with the edge of one area down the side of one. The kind of the
great away day. Brilliant
stadium. See a lot of action one half and not much the other.
I don't think I think they'll win the league. I'd say if Wrexham don't win it, I think that's cancelled.
Good, aren't they?
Yeah, great.
Good. This new manager's got a pair and.
Well, he's got a brain, and like Birchnell did, so it's probably a bit harsh. But like literally now they've got Birchnell, now they've got Langstaff.
What's your prediction then, Sam?
5-0.
Yeah, I agree. 5-0.
3-1.
Go on, Chris.
I've said this before. Just because we're crap and bottom of the league and they're top and scoring millions of goals doesn't mean I can predict that we're going to lose, because I can't do that. Yeah, it's going to be a draw, 2-2.
They won't have Brindley playing anyway. He was sent off, wasn't he? So
yes, absolutely, yeah.
But you got Chickson,
I mean, to be honest, if we can get 11 players together,
Rodriguez, what a player.
Carl Cameron will probably score.
Has Cameron been playing for them?
Yeah, he's captain, isn't he? Yeah, I forgot
he was injured. Okay.
They got Anamani at wing back, haven't they? He's been
They've got this guy called Palmer's a good player, isn't he?
Yeah, no,
just on a different level to us at the moment.
The main scored
because we only beat them 5-1.
Yeah,
we beat them 5-1 in April. That feels like donkeys years ago.
We did, didn't we? Yeah,
jeez, didn't we? Armani Little and Conrad Evans.
That was glorious afternoon. That one, wasn't it?
Fantastic,
wasn't it?
Anyway, thanks for joining us, you three. Brilliant, Dennis. Thank you for your debut. Fantastic. And thanks for watching. And we'll see you next week.